Hi there, I'm Adeline and it's so nice to meet you. Welcome to the 44th Celebrity Synastry chart reading where we will be covering Rosalia and Jeremy Allen White. For those new and returning, I take notes on a Synastry chart looking at the personal planet signs, aspects and if birth times available house overlays. I also add my insights and interpretations along the way. Feel free to leave your own in the comments below. Before we get started, give this video a like and subscribe for more Celebrity Synastry chart readings from me. And let's get into it. Starting off with the sun, we have Rosalia's sun in Libra and Jeremy's sun in Aquarius. These are both air signs. They are good friends and they are both social and active. They share humanitarian interests and they see each other as an intellectual partner. Jeremy sees Rosalia as superficial and Rosalia wishes Jeremy was more affectionate. Jeremy's sun overlaid in Rosalia's third house. There's a comfortable atmosphere. If they have that friendship foundation, I'm sure they would. Jeremy thinks Rosalia is brilliant and they enjoy talking about their days together. Jeremy thinks Rosalia is predictable. Rosalia feels smarter around Jeremy and Jeremy sees Rosalia as someone with good common sense. Rosalia's sun opposite Jeremy's Venus. Their values conflict and they frustrate each other. Jeremy grows to resent Rosalia. I assume just with what we've seen, maybe he does see more as someone without depth because we saw that, you know, he finds her very predictable and everything and can tend to see her as superficial. Potentially does like her, but maybe doesn't see a lot of emotional depth potentially or any other depth. We'll see more. Jeremy sees Rosalia as too dictatorial. Rosalia needs to learn to accept Jeremy because we did see that she feels smart around Jeremy and Jeremy sees her as very brilliant. Potentially she might have an ego about that and get a bit bossy because of that. Hard work is needed to make this work. Jeremy can play games with Rosalia and Rosalia will either not appreciate Jeremy or take him for granted. Interesting. I mean, it's too soon to say either way. Rosalia's sun, Trine Jeremy's Mars. They are supportive of each other and they have healthy competitiveness. Neither feels blocked by the other. Rosalia admires Jeremy's drive and courage and they can deal with challenges together, encourage the other's goals and visions, and Jeremy expresses his desire for Rosalia frequently. So potentially just with what we're seeing so far, I feel like Rosalia seems to think of herself highly. What's coming to my head is that Jeremy is like pretty much chasing after Rosalia and she's very much playing hard to get. But hard to get in the sense that she's too good for him, if that makes sense. That's just what's coming to my head. They express themselves in a straightforward manner and they can both rely on each other when they are demotivated. Rosalia's sun sextile Jeremy's Jupiter. Rosalia energizes Jeremy. So on the whole, it does seem like they are comfortable with each other, bounce off with each other very well. They are good travel companions. Jeremy is generous with Rosalia. See, that's what I'm kind of seeing so far, is that he seems to be very much chasing and putting a lot of effort for Rosalia, but it doesn't seem to be reciprocated with the same effort. Mutual respect remains after the end and both want to make the other happy. Jeremy boosts Rosalia's confidence. Jeremy opens up new doors for Rosalia and Jeremy frequently gives Rosalia the benefit of the doubt. That's just what I'm pulling from all of this. Let me know if you have any different interpretations of all this. But I seriously see that he seems to be very much like chasing her and she's just not reciprocating that same effort, you know. Rosalia's sun, Trine Jeremy's Saturn. They work well together. It's a sensible relationship. I think on Rosalia's end, because we saw she has that sort of sense of sensibility. Jeremy is loyal to Rosalia. I'm not surprised. Jeremy guides Rosalia with his wisdom and challenges are dealt with perseverance. This is something that's repeated that I really like. That at least like when they have challenges, they go for it together and it seems like in a healthy manner. They both desire to build a lasting relationship. Rosalia is encouraging and supportive of Jeremy. Jeremy is attracted to Rosalia's will and personality. I feel like this was initially because we do see that sort of because of her sort of, I guess, more, I don't want to say basic personality. She just seems to, so far, a bit more stoic, a bit more sensible. I feel like, you know, we did see that Jeremy goes to resent her probably because of this. Rosalia is drawn to Jeremy's maturity, and wealth can be accumulated through marriage. Jeremy's Sun trine Rosalia's Venus. There's mutual attraction. I'm glad we're kind of seeing a little bit on Rosalia's end. They both value each other, and it's a harmonious relationship. They are financially lucky people, and they both share common interests. We did see in the beginning that socially and like in an active way they have those interests. Accept and tolerate each other, and Rosalia is willing to do anything to please Jeremy. It doesn't seem like it. Hopefully we're seeing like a sort of change of mind. Rosalia finds Jeremy charming and intriguing, and Jeremy feels more loving and beautiful around Rosalia. So now it's time for Moon. We have Rosalia's Moon in Virgo and Jeremy's Moon in Aries. Jeremy's brash nature makes Rosalia anxious. Okay. Now, like, if he is coming off to her in a brushed way, that's why she's a bit more, like, not as reciprocating. That does make sense. Fair enough. Jeremy doesn't understand Rosalia's worrying nature, and they support each other with their strengths. Rosalia's criticism makes Jeremy feel discouraged. Potentially that's why he grows to resent her, because she seems a bit more, like, stoic. Potentially she is more blunt. I mean, I guess her criticism would come more from her being a bit more smarter with her, because we saw that she feels smarter around Jeremy. So potentially that is where the criticism comes from, and Jeremy just feels stupid around Rosalia. They need to adjust to each other on a daily level. Jeremy's Moon in Rosalia's 4th house are relayed. It's love-hate and there's conflicting feelings. I'm not too surprised. They both feel deeply bonded to each other, and they are competitive like siblings. I'm pretty sure we see the competitive element again. Jeremy may feel like a parent to Rosalia, interesting, and they both feel the need to spend time apart. Rosalia's Moon opposite Jeremy's Venus. They both learn balance and harmony here. I hope they do on both ends. I feel like they would need a bit of that balance. Obviously, Jeremy's end probably being less brash in pursuing of Rosalia, or just in general being less brash, and Rosalia, you know, not being too I'm too smart for you sort of vibe. Easy to take each other for granted. I believe we did see Rosalia potentially can take Jeremy for granted, so I assume that would be connected. Living beyond means occurs, again with the financial abundance. They will not appreciate each other sometimes. Rosalia may feel undervalued or misunderstood by Jeremy. I would say misunderstood, because Jeremy does seem to really value her, but potentially for the wrong reasons, so I would say misunderstood. Compromises need to happen, and Jeremy sees Rosalia as childish and needy, probably why he would feel the need to be like a parent to Rosalia. Jeremy gets confused with Rosalia's emotion, potentially why he misunderstands her. Rosalia sees Jeremy as narcissistic and seductive. Definitely on the seductive bit, because it seems like he's very pursuant of her and generally a brash character, so I would say that. Rosalia's Moon trine Jeremy's Uranus. They both feel free to express themselves. Jeremy is more open around Rosalia. Ideas of unconventional domestic setup bring them together. They can cope with sudden changes together. See, I'm glad that something good is repeated, that they can deal with things together when challenges come up. There's a level of unpredictability, and Jeremy feels safe around Rosalia. Enjoy talking about social issues. We did see in the beginning they have those humanitarian interests together, so that's nice. Potentially, I don't know if they do support some sort of charity together. Mutual friends may bring them together. Rosalia's Moon trine Jeremy's Neptune. Rosalia picks up on Jeremy's needs and they inspire the other. There's a mystical meeting. Art is a shared interest. I'm not sure exactly what they do. I believe from what I saw that Rosalia is some kind of singer and Jeremy's an actor, so I guess that makes sense there if I'm not wrong. They sense each other's feelings. I think we do see this more on Rosalia's end. They share a sensitive and mystical worldview, and they both uncover the other's blind spots. Now for the intermission. This video is brought to you by me, my Etsy store, Adeline the Astrologer. If you ever watch this and think, hey, I would like her to read my Synastry chart, well, I will. I do personalized synastry readings on my Etsy store, both basic and detailed. The basic one is very simple to understand. It's not overwhelming at all. It's pretty good for those that are beginners to astrology, just getting the head around astrology, or just as a fun gift idea. The detailed one is just like what I do on my channel, just a lot of insight and interpretation on your chart. So if you are interested in that and everything else astrology and tarot related, readings and gifts, then definitely check out my Etsy store. Links are below. I'm always releasing new things, so definitely check it out if you're interested. You can even just favorite the store just to show your support for free. Thanks for listening, and let's get back to the reading. Rosalia's moon sextile Jeremy's Pluto. Relationship feels faded. Interesting how this sort of mystical type of meaning is repeated. Both their irrational sides come out. Relationship presents opportunity for both to heal from the past. This is interesting. So there seems to be a sort of they come together and heal from the past, or it seems like it's more of that therapeutic style relationship we just saw. They uncover the other's blind spots. Intense meeting, involved in organizations together. I have to assume this is some sort of charity or other humanitarian cause. And they have a strong bond. Jeremy's moon opposite Rosalia's Mercury. Insightful conversations, and they confide in each other. It seems like they do both seem to feel very comfortable with each other, and like, you know, we can deal with a lot of things together. They both feel different here. We did just see the irrational sides come out here. Jeremy questions a lot of what Rosalia says, probably to do with her, I don't know, fact, something where she's trying to be smarter than him or something, because that seems to be the vibe, is that she feels too good for Jeremy. Jeremy's feelings are incompatible with Rosalia's ideas. I'm not surprised. He doesn't seem to value intellect, I would say, as much as Rosalia. Jeremy's moon square Rosalia's Uranus. Jeremy is possessive of Rosalia. I see that. Like, he seems to be very, like, pursuant of her. Relationship can begin suddenly. I wonder how they met, because we keep seeing, like, mystical meeting now. It began suddenly. Jeremy feels emotionally insecure around Rosalia. I don't blame him, purely because he seems to be very, like, you know, pursuant of Rosalia, and seems to be very, like, dedicated to her and loyal to her. And we did see how he doesn't seem to understand Rosalia emotionally, has difficulty in that. So I would assume he probably feels insecure about that as well. Jeremy's moon square Rosalia's Neptune. They misunderstand each other's signals, and there's a possibility of neglecting each other. In a way, yes. It's a confusing relationship. I wouldn't say it's confusing. I think they do like each other, but there are certain things that they can't really get past, if that makes sense. That it takes, you know, more work to get past and deal with. Jeremy is unsure of Rosalia's intentions. I feel like this would have been the other way around, but I guess we'll see more. Difficulty maintaining relationship, and Jeremy is sensitive to Rosalia's moods. He seems to be very insecure in this relationship. He seems to be a bit more sensitive here. Like, I don't, like, we saw both the irrational sides come out. I feel like for him, he would just be a bit more vulnerable and sensitive and all of that. So now it's time for Mercury. We have Rosalia's Mercury in Libra and Jeremy's Mercury in Aquarius. These are both air signs. They have abstract conversations, and they both tend to be argumentative, intellectually stimulating relationship, and they share detached and objective values. Jeremy's Mercury in Rosalia's second house. It's difficult to see eye to eye together. I really see that they lack common views. I know we did see they shared detached and objective values. I don't see what it would be besides potentially some humanitarian things, but that's the only thing I can see, because there's a lot of the values conflict. Both get the impression that the other doesn't get them, and I don't blame them. Rosalia's Mercury trine Jeremy's Mars. Jeremy stimulates Rosalia's mind. I hope that's why she's attracted to him. That would be nice, because she seems to need that. Jeremy energizes Rosalia, and Jeremy helps Rosalia develop her ideas. This is nice. Healthy intellectual competition, potentially. I mean, we did see the whole argument factor, so hopefully it is just healthy debates. Rosalia teaches Jeremy how to be more reasonable, not a shock at all. They work well together, and they both move forward in this relationship. We did see that Jeremy opens up new doors for Rosalia. They enjoy debating together, and Rosalia helps Jeremy to problem solve. Jeremy takes Rosalia's words personally, so yeah, as I said, he seems to be very sensitive to her. Rosalia's Mercury square Jeremy's Uranus. They challenge the way the other looks at things. I definitely see this from Rosalia's end. They have intellectual conversations, we see again. This is a very random comparison, but it gives me sort of like royal family type vibes where it's a very sensible, proper kind of persona she's putting on. Rosalia finds it difficult to depend on Jeremy. This is interesting because he seems to want to step not into that parent role, that I hope not. If this is an actual relationship, I hope not, but he seems to want to be an anchor for Rosalia. Potentially just his insecurities make it more difficult. Rosalia's Mercury square Jeremy's Neptune. They think creatively around each other, and Rosalia misunderstands Jeremy. I'm sure she does. I'm sure she does, because he doesn't seem like a really bad person in this relationship, honestly. There's no, like, real red flags with him. They both need to be clearer with communication. Rosalia sees Jeremy as abstract. Rosalia's trust for Jeremy fades. It's interesting how we've already seen those deteriorating factors in terms of, like, as individuals, this sort of, trust fades. I think for Jeremy, he just resents her over time. Jeremy sees Rosalia as practical and logical again. Jeremy feels limited by Rosalia. I think going back to, he seems to, be a bit more insecure because Rosalia seems to push that, I don't know what the word would be, intelligent narrative. Like, she seems to, be a bit more, oh, I'm smarter than you vibe. Jeremy's Mercury square Rosalia's Pluto. They have frequent intellectual arguments, and they both may hold onto issues for too long. Not surprising with the arguments. Jeremy is overwhelmed by this dynamic. I would be too. He seems a bit more insecure and vulnerable here, which seems to be a change for him. Jeremy feels controlled by Rosalia. Jeremy wants to understand Rosalia deeply. This is kind of sad. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I feel bad for him. Rosalia wants to know Jeremy's secrets and tries to control Jeremy's thoughts. I unfortunately kind of see that. So now it's time for Venus. So we have Rosalia's Venus in Scorpio and Jeremy's Venus in Pisces. They instantly bond, and it's an emotional, deep relationship. We haven't really seen anything with the emotions, have we? The only thing we've really seen is that Jeremy just has a difficulty understanding Rosalia's emotions. Rosalia may feel threatened by Jeremy. I feel like something weird happened, like the whole meeting is a bit weird. Because from how I interpret this reading, so far, Jeremy seems to have been a bit more like brash when pursuing Rosalia. But there also seems to be this sort of mystical aspect. Maybe he thought it was fate. I'm not sure how they met. I really want to know now because it seems to be very odd. They have common ground, and Jeremy appreciates Rosalia's intensity. Jeremy's Venus in Rosalia's third house overlaid. Jeremy feels more comfortable around Rosalia, and they are good friends. Jeremy sees Rosalia as easily approachable. I don't know, he seems to have been a bit more brash when pursuing Rosalia. They trust each other, and Jeremy makes Rosalia happy. Easy and natural communication. Yeah, the communication at least seems to be pretty good. Sometimes they debate a bit too much, but Rosalia's Venus square Jeremy's Jupiter. Rosalia feels more confident and attractive around Jeremy. I'm glad they both seem to feel more nice around each other. It's a promising relationship, can find a happy way to share their life. I think we did see earlier that ideas of unconventional domestic setup bring them together, so Jeremy may be irritated with Rosalia's possessiveness. Interesting. Potentially there is that whole issue. Maybe he feels a bit more emasculated and insecure in this relationship, so anything that Rosalia does would sort of would flare that up, if that makes sense. Rosalia's Venus square Jeremy's Saturn. Jeremy is critical and demanding of Rosalia. Okay. Rosalia sees Jeremy as unsympathetic. Rosalia eventually withholds affection from Jeremy. See, I know we just saw promising relationship, but there's already been a few like deteriorating factors, like they lose that sort of, I don't want to say attraction because it's different on both ends, but they just lose it for each other. Jeremy sees Rosalia as childish and undisciplined. This is odd. The only way I can interpret this, because we have been seeing Rosalia seems to be a bit more smarter and more like logical, practical, that sort of vibe. The only way I could see Jeremy seeing Rosalia as childish, because we've already seen this a few times, maybe she has that sort of like childlike lack of filter, if that makes sense. Like, you know how children kind of just say what they have, what's on their minds, they just spit out, they don't necessarily think about it. Maybe she has that kind of characteristic. Criticism is rooted from jealousy. Jeremy's Venus opposite Rosalia's Jupiter, promising relationship. Again, I don't see it. I'm not doubting that they do like each other, but they seem to just deteriorate. They're generous of each other and they both have a problem with promising more than they can give. I'm not shocked because they both do seem to want to make each other happy, but I don't think they're really capable of that with what we've seen. They share an optimistic life together. We have seen a lot of like they share life together. I don't know this couple too well. Do they have children or do they live together? Because it seems like there is some sort of sharing of like assets or sharing something together important. Jeremy's Venus, Trine Rosalia's Pluto. It's emotionally fulfilling. Maybe the lack of emotions makes it emotionally fulfilling because we haven't seen too much of that. They both potentially could just be not the most emotional people, don't need that. It's not likely to go stale. Jeremy considers Rosalia as irresistible and they both enjoy growing from this relationship. See, this is a good thing. They seem to both really want to learn and they both deal with challenges together well and seem to want to do that. So that is a nice thing. They want to have children together and Jeremy sees Rosalia as a soulmate. Yeah. Do they? I really am very interested in this couple now, like how they met, like do they have kids together or anything? So now it's time for Mars. We have Rosalia's Mars in Cancer and Jeremy's Mars in Gemini. Rosalia gets unsettled by Jeremy. Yeah, I see that. She seems to, because we did see she literally gets anxious by him, but also sees him as a bit more abstract. Like it seems like she doesn't seem as very predictable. Rosalia is protective of Jeremy and Jeremy hurts Rosalia with his words. I assume this would be when they argue, but also I wouldn't be shocked purely because it seems like Rosalia hurts him and makes him feel a bit more insecure in that way. Maybe not directly, but that general like feeling insecure around Jeremy. Rosalia avoids confrontation of Jeremy. This is interesting. I guess the challenges they deal with each other would not be directly about the other, if that makes sense. Like, you know, Rosalia would come up to it, you know, most other issues, just not when it relates to, hey, Jeremy, you're being, I don't know, annoying or whatever. Jeremy tends to nitpick Rosalia. Interesting. So it seems like on both ends they seem to like pick on each other a bit. Jeremy's Mars in Rosalia's 6th house. Jeremy energizes Rosalia. This is also a nice repeated factor. I don't know if I've mentioned it. There is a lot of like they energize each other, which is nice. They exercise together. I'm pretty sure right at the beginning we saw they are pretty active together. Rosalia can see through Jeremy, which we did see that she does seem to read Jeremy very well and senses his emotions well, I think it was. Relaxed and calm around each other, and Jeremy is flustered around Rosalia, not surprisingly so. Rosalia's Mars opposite Jeremy's Uranus. Rosalia needs to learn not to take Jeremy's actions personally. I mean, kind of, but like at the same time, like his negative qualities seem to be as a result of feeling insecure around her, because she does seem to be a bit more have that better than thou attitude. She just needs to confront him, which she avoids. They have frequent arguments, which we have kind of seen repeated. Jeremy's Mars, Trine Rosalia's Saturn. Rosalia is the anchor, which, oh, that's weird. Like, I guess Jeremy is interesting here because I feel like this is something that just came to me because earlier I did say, hey, Jeremy seems to want to be the anchor. I feel like there is also the element in this relationship on Jeremy's end. He potentially feels insecure because he may feel emasculated by Rosalia. Maybe I mentioned that before, maybe I didn't, but I want to say that because that also seems to be an element, because we see Jeremy being a bit more like brash, you know, in pursuing Rosalia, or initially with Rosalia being a bit more brash, and also seeming to want to be the sort of like parental figure, like the more dominant figure in this relationship. But Rosalia seems to take that over for him. Potentially that is why he may not be the best in this relationship and towards Rosalia. And maybe why Rosalia shouldn't take his actions too personally, because not necessarily about her, it's just because he feels emasculated. they both can achieve a lot together. We have seen bits and pieces throughout the reading of this. Jeremy finds Rosalia's predictability attractive. Interesting. One of those things, he finds it attractive initially, but over time gets annoyed with it. Jeremy feels he can depend on Rosalia, and Rosalia appreciates Jeremy's individuality. I'm glad, because he does seem to be a unique individual from what we're seeing here. So that was the final aspect, bringing us to the end of the reading. If you are still watching, please share your thoughts below. I'm very curious on what you guys have to say about these two. This was a very interesting reading in terms of like now, like I didn't know anything about these two, but now I really want to know like how they met, like if they have a family together, if they live together sort of thing. Just get to know these two because it seems like an interesting couple. And if you have made it this far, please consider subscribing for more. I post these readings weekly. Besides that, give this video a like and I will see you guys next time. Bye!